Hello and welcome to the Passion Driven Pioneers interview series. I'm your host, John Channon, and today I'm joined by Clark Saucier, who is the president of Bramsted Surgical. Clark, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, John.
Would you like to kick us off with a brief background as to who you are, what you do, and the business that you're in?
I'm a middle-aged guy. I got into this with an agreement with my brother years and years ago. Started in the technical side, and now I'm in the management side, um, and have slowly worked to the presidential position. Um, our company does surgical instrument repair for hospitals and clinics throughout the metro area and for customers throughout the United States. It's a smaller kind of a niche industry, not a lot of people are aware of. And my day to day now is advising the technical side and management operations, customer facing stuff. So,
Well, you,
yeah.
you mentioned you kind of had an agreement and started out in the business with your brother. What motivated you to kind of want to pursue that path and essentially be a business owner?
My father was an entrepreneur, so I was around acquiring businesses, running businesses. So it was familiar to me. And then when my brother acquired the business, he, after a year or two of ownership, sought me out. It was about the time we suffered the recession, and the company I was working for had laid me off. So I took some time off, kind of enjoyed myself, and then he approached me and asked if I wanted to come and partner with him. And I struck an agreement with him that I would work my way into ownership, and now I'm president. So,
Oh, cool. Well, that's kind of a neat way to do that.
mhm.
Uh, so he kind of approached you with this, or was this something you'd been interested in all along? I know you said you come from a family of entrepreneurs.
He sought me out for my technical
Mhm.
expertise. I come from a machining and manufacturing and design background, and he needed somebody to come in and learn the technical side of the business as the staff that came with the business when he acquired it. They were aging. They were early 60s, looking at the door, and he needed somebody to come in and learn everything there was to know. And his big concern at the time, being a small business, um, he needed somebody with energy. It was the opportunity that he had to acquire the business. It was struggling, and it had been acquired by a larger entity and had been neglected, and so they were looking to just get rid of it. And so he saw an opportunity and got it for a sweet deal. And we've put a lot of energy into it since.
Well, out there in the business world, sometimes people have some preconceived notions of what it's like to be an owner of a business. Can you talk about some of those misconceptions that exist out there, and what do you do to address them, or how did you?
It's a lot of hard work. The A lot of people would ask me, "Oh, it must be nice to own your own business," not understanding that being a small business, you put a lot of your heart and soul into it. Um, and especially for this business, it was kind of on a downward trajectory. So we were essentially pulling it out of a nosedive. Um, in retrospect, maybe not the best choice, but it took us a couple years to get our feet underneath us. And once we did, it was a lot of really looking at it in terms of the long play. Our business is built on long term relationships with our customers and long term employees. And so we really focused on bringing in good people and good technical expertise, really solidifying our bases. So I don't know if that answered your question, but really looking at the core tenets of the business and then working hard on those. And being a small business and the kind of the acquisition deal that Eric had struck, um, we had to put a lot of time into it, but it's paying off.
So you mentioned the business was in a bit of a nosedive. What were the key things you guys focused on at the beginning to basically pull it back up?
The biggest thing was solidifying the technical staff. Um, like I had mentioned, the technicians that were with the business were looking at retirement.
Yeah.
And so Eric brought me in, and they had kind of neglected any technical growth for a decade.
Mm,
And so we really focused on bringing in good people and refining the methods that they use to do the repairs. And that's where my background came in. Coming from the machining and manufacturing and design background, we kind of established a position of starting with quality and then figuring out how to build speed in afterwards.
mhm.
And so we built up the technical staff and really focused on the relationships with our customers. We're being a smaller entity competing with larger entities. It's tough for us to compete on price. They can accept losses just to retain customers, and we focused on being reliable and providing much better customer service, and that's helped us a lot.
You know, a lot of business owners find themselves not really able to get away from work sometimes. You know, you bring it home with you. Can you
Mhm.
comment kind of on your work-life balance and maybe some of the things that you do to try to keep you motivated and focused and at least have some level of balance?
Early on, it was tough. I hadn't had a family at that point in time, and I met my wife early on when I was first with the business, and there was some strain. But for me, my focus has been to make sure I have time to pursue my passions. I'm a soccer player, still play men's soccer, and so getting those releases have been really helpful.
Mhm.
And I've been finding that the more time that I spend indoors, the more that, for me personally, I work better having that physical exercise. But I think that for most people, you have to have that outlet to give yourself that. I don't know if you'd call it a cookie or a reward, but it's that other part of your life that you need to maintain the balance in. And you just got to find one thing on the other side of the scale that balances the work that you put in.
Yeah, my wife uses the term a reinforcer, you know,
Mhm.
as some of those things. So that's really that's good, right? It's good advice. You got to have that type of activity to be able to have that reinforcement that you're doing the right thing, but also that release of some of that stress and
Yeah.
anxiety that you have
Yep.
owning a business.
Mhm.
Talk a little bit about, you mentioned that, you know, the technical side was where you guys focused first. You focused first on that quality. Um, how do you stay adaptable and open to change in your business?
It comes from two sources. We encourage collaboration within our shop environment. There's no set in stone methodology. If we encourage everybody that if they can foresee a better way of performing a repair process or just an improvement that they can see in general, if they bring a compelling argument and all right, that's something that we're going to look at and entertain. So we really try to foster that collaborative environment, and then just looking at the needs of our customers. Um, if we see a lot of customer need coming from a certain type of a repair or a certain area of the repair types, we're going to work on developing that. So
Okay, so obviously internally driven, but also externally driven, keeping up with changes in the business and the environment.
yeah, but John, it's not just internally and externally. We tried to really narrowly focus that. If
Good.
you're really looking at every little shiny thing, you're going to get distracted. So we try to make sure that there's two points of gravity for those improvements, and we'll consider things that don't come from those two areas, but those are the main focus. Try to keep a really narrow beam on those two areas.
Good. I appreciate that clarification. I think that's important, right? Focus is important.
Mhm.
Um, maybe if we could look forward a little bit. Would you mind offering a glimpse into your future plans and goals for your business?
Well, right now things are going pretty well. We have a great technical staff in, some good leaders, and we're really seeing opportunities in competing with these larger entities. The One of the things that we really work hard on doing is retaining staff.
Mhm.
It's a bit of training to get somebody well versed in surgical instrument repair. And so we really focus on making sure that we have competitive compensation, but also a great atmosphere, and really try to foster a friendly, like family work environment. Um, and that's allowing us to go and collect accounts that some of these larger companies, due to whatever reason, they're failing to meet their promises, and maybe they're just kind of losing sight of the fact that the customer is the one that really keeps you in business, and customer satisfaction should be your number one. So yeah, we're just looking to expand our range, looking to expand our staff, looking to expand our fleet of vehicles, everything.
Okay. And and so 5 years from now,
Mhm.
what does Bramstead look like?
5 years from now, we are going to have a purpose built facility. Currently, we lease, but the layout of the location we're in now, we could see a little bit of room for improvement. And so we're at that stage where it's becoming more and more apparent that we need to have our own facility, a larger geographic reach. We're seeing a lot of needs for customers, not just in the 5-state area, but throughout the country. We'll see requests for quotes from like Tennessee, the Carolinas, California, uh, Washington State, all over the place. So really looking at that and really refining our training program. That's the biggest part of our success in the technical side. Really, really thorough, in-depth, quality-focused training program.
That's interesting. So expanding beyond the 5 states, right? Improving some of that service model that you got. And
Mhm.
then obviously it sounds like, the ability to create a footprint, a manufacturing footprint to better suit kind of how you guys have grown. Is that
Yeah, it's not so much on the manufacturing side. It's a service business
okay?
to a large extent, but um, because there are hospitals and clinics in pretty much every major city, metro area throughout the United States, rural, um, it's kind of a challenge to meet all those needs with one central location. And so we're looking at how we can give ourselves more flexibility to extend to, like, from us here in Minneapolis, how do we reach Fargo? How do we reach Duluth? And it's a kind of a hybrid where you have like a hub and spoke type model where you have one major service center, and then you have, you know, tentacles that reach out to those outlying areas. So
Oh, that sounds cool. It's a neat little business model, and the hub and spoke design is a nice visual for our audience. So, recognizing that this show's targeted towards people who are in the process of either starting up their businesses or in the first few years of business, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with our audience today?
in terms of starting a business or even acquiring a small business, if it's not something that you can't see upside and you don't like, stay away from it. If it's going to be if it's going to be a slog in 5 years, you don't want to be in it. You want to find something that you're excited about, can see yourself excited about in 10 years, and there's upside. I mean, if you're going to spend time, you need to see that there's potential for a great reward.
That's really good advice. So, thank you so much for your time today, Clark. It was great meeting you and learning more about your entrepreneurial journey. And to everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.